working for somebody else, and I got fired one day. Somebody asked me what they thought of the company, and I was like operating officer, GM, whatever you wanted to call me. And I guess I gave them a little bit too much of my mind. And a couple days later, I got, here's your check. You're no longer needed here.
Well, what did you segue into after you got fired and you're just saying, guy, I'll show him? What happened there?
I decided to move Washington, D.C., and I had exactly one political science class in college. And I ended up working in the executive office of the President of the United States in a roundabout way.
Which president, which time?
I worked for both Bush presidents, 41 and 43, as we refer to them.
So then you leave Washington, D.C. Is this where your journey really starts in entrepreneurship?
My business partner, Roger, and I said, I have an empty credit card. Do you have an empty credit card? And he said, yes. And we started the agency off Madison Ave. We joke frequently that we are VC funded, which is Visa card.
I'm interested to know what some of the golden ones for you are.
It's about building awareness and changing behavior. That's what you need to do. You build brands by the interaction that your customers have with your product, service, whatever you're selling.
David Anderson, we're going to get into some entrepreneurship. We're going to get a good long shot story, but I'm eager to talk about your experience with presidents. But let's go back to the origin. We want to find out the algorithm view. Where are you from? Are you originally from Arizona? Tell us all about yourself.
Yeah, originally from Arizona, but grew up in New Jersey because of Dad's job. I transferred to the East Coast when I was pretty young, but spent a lot of time in Arizona. Eventually graduated from high school back east, came here, ASU for a few years. Yes, it took me more than 4 years, so a little bit longer than 4 years to get through ASU. Moved back to Washington, D.C. for a few years, and now I've been back here for some time now. So yeah, it's been good.
Did you know what you wanted to do when you were in high school or college?
I'm still trying to figure it out, Michael, to be honest with you. I'm still trying it. Many years removed from high school. I think I have ADHD before anybody knew what ADHD was, to be honest with you. So no, I've been an entrepreneur most of my life, but I come from a non-entrepreneur family. My dad was a big corporate guy, Fortune 25, 50, whatever it was. Suit and tie, jacket every day. Grew up doing that. And then through a series of events, just kind of ended up in the entrepreneurial world, which has been awesome.
Well, how did that start? What was your first, kind of quest? Because you've done multiple, right? So what was your first?
Yeah, I probably got I got the entrepreneurial bug in it's kind of a strange way. When I was young, not very young, I started working at a country club in New Jersey, caddying, being on the golf course. No, my game is not that good. Used to be a lot better before I decided to be an entrepreneur, but it's not that great. But I was surrounded by people, many of them that were entrepreneurs that started their own business, very successful. Being honest, they drove the fancy cars. They had, all of this stuff. And I got the bug, and I kind of, have done everything from shoveling snow for pay, a little bit of yard work, all kinds of things. But the real story is after college, I worked in DC for a while, did the government thing, came back here, working for somebody else, and I got fired one day. Somebody asked me what they thought of the company, and I was like, operating officer, GM, whatever you wanted to call me. And I guess I gave him a little bit too much of my mind. And a couple days later, I got, here's your check. You're no longer needed here. My wife and I were 1 month pregnant with our first kid on the way. So that was a fun conversation when I told her. But honestly, it was a blessing. Things have, been great. 2 kids later, that kid who was on his way when I got fired, just got engaged this weekend. We've come a long way. Yeah.
Well, what did you segue into after you got fired and you're just saying, guy, I'll show him? What happened there?
So when I left Washington, D.C., I came back to Arizona. And when I left Arizona, graduated from ASU, was working at a bar, was killing my dad that after he paid all this money for school, I was bartending and waiting tables. So I got this wild hair and I decided to move Washington, D.C. And I I had exactly one political science class in college, and I ended up working in the executive office of the President of the United States in a roundabout way.
Which president, which time?
So I am going back some fellow Texans where you're from. I worked for both Bush presidents, 41 and 43, as we refer to them. So yes, I am that.
Did you get to interact with those guys?
Yeah. I worked in a.
Let's have some fun. Let's have some fun. Let's have some fun here.
All right.
I really always saw Senior as a really smart dude, and I see Clinton as a smart dude. And those guys seem to they have a good friendship. But they did, when they was alive. So, my impression of Senior was just a schooled politician, really knew his stuff. Now, Junior, I sense that he grew up with it, but I sense he's a little bit more of the fun guy. This is not a stretch, really. I mean, what is give us a milieu of what you think that was all about, and what the personalities were like. That's fun.
Absolutely. 41. So H.W. Bush, extremely smart guy, extremely well connected everywhere we went. And part of my role was I traveled with him not wherever, but on a lot of trips domestically. Everywhere we went, he knew somebody, friends of the Bushes, FOBs, they were called, FOB, friends of the Bushes. So be careful, because you didn't want to piss them off because he would hear about it. So you had to be careful. Very nice man, very, well educated, had brilliant people around him. He neither of the Bushes were known for their communications, external communications, but just really great people who I learned so much from. 43, they are very different, but very much the same. 43, he's the first president of the United States to have a master's degree. 43 was, so a plus to him there. He enjoyed having a good time, but he was also very intense. Always go, 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 go. He knew what he wanted to get done in a day and wanted to get through it quickly. Made decisions, but again, somebody I admire a great deal. In the world of politics today, that might be something dangerous to say, but I do, and I learned a lot from them both.
That's fun stuff. Okay, you had to ask about that, because it's it's rarefied to deal with a president like that. I have a friend and somebody I worked with that worked with Bob Dole, and got to meet a lot of presidents. And I'm sure you met Bob Dole, because that was right there in the mix right around that time, wasn't it?
Absolutely. Another just fine American, just a great, great guy. They were 100% in it for the public service. They really did what they did for themselves. And to the Bush-Clinton thing, when 43 asked President, his dad, and Clinton to do some stuff together, they became incredibly close. As a matter of fact, Bill Clinton refers to him as the father he never had, which is unbelievable when you think about one beat the other for the presidency of the United States. And look at the world we live in today, without going into politics, but think about that, how that is.
I love the relationship with Clinton and Senior, because they're just everything I hear, so smart. Clinton looked at it like Jordan looked at basketball. He wanted, that famous picture of JFK and Clinton, and like this dude with all, with the other thing aside that got him in trouble, he was really, a schooled politician, Rhodes Scholar. I really admired that. And then Senior, so smart, and a professional. This was, I don't know if it was, he looked at it as a sport. He looked at it as a calling. And one guy looked at it like, this is an intense sport to me. This is like, I have to know everything about everything. And the other dude was like, this is just my calling. That's a wonderful relationship. I romanticize maybe that relationship, because I just really prioritize the intelligence of those guys. But I think it's really cool. And you got to be a part of that. So that's really, that gives us a texture of you. So then you leave Washington, D.C. Is this where your journey really starts in entrepreneurship?
Yeah, so when I left DC, I went to work for somebody who I worked with in DC in a PR firm. That's how I got into PR. I didn't have many marketing classes either. I have a finance degree. So when this person asked me to open a Arizona office of his DC-based public relations firm, I went to the ASU bookstore and I sat on the floor because the internet wasn't as prevalent then. I literally sat on the floor for an entire afternoon reading PR 101, 102, 307, all the different books. And I'm like, I've been in politics. Politics is nothing but PR. And so I did that for a while. Then I went to the agency that I ultimately got fired from, where I met my business partner. And after I got fired, which is a story to be told over a couple beers, because it entailed Peyton Place and affairs and all of the rest of the stuff. My business partner, Roger, and I said, I have an empty credit card. Do you have an empty credit card? And he said, yes. And we started the agency off Madison Ave. We joke frequently that we are VC funded, which is Visa card. We are a VC funded company via Visa cards. And 26 years later, here we are.
26. So this was 1999.
Yeah.
You do this. So that's right around the time there was speaking of PR. Did you read that book, Shine?
Yeah.
Isn't that a great
EOS
book
company. So yeah.
It's a good book, right?
Yeah. Gino's book. Yeah.
Yeah. Now let's talk about, some of the bullet points. And I want to, pick your brain about, public relations, promotion, advertising, marketing, social media. There's a psychology behind it. What would you say some of the key points of these that you really kind of discovered? Want to rattle off some of the great, needle movers of good marketing and advertising, aspects from a psychological standpoint. What we're, speaking of the book Shine, I'm looking at the book Shine right now.
Are you? Yeah.
There's a bookshelf behind you. Yeah. So I'm interested to know what your some of the golden ones for you are.
Yeah, and it's a good question because we as a firm think very highly and focus on behavioral marketing. Another great book is by BJ Fogg, Tiny Habits, and how you take how you focus on changing behavior. Marketing, in our view, it's about building awareness and changing behavior. That's what you need to do. You build brands by the interaction that your customers have with your product, service, whatever you're selling. Marketing is about making people aware of you and inducing trial, getting them to change from a behavior that they had before and inducing trial with your brand. Then your brand must deliver on what the consumer expectation is, and you help set that expectation. So that's what this is all about. And it's everything, social media is huge. PR used to be huge. What you promise that your brand can do. And if it doesn't, then it's going to cost you a lot more if you can ever get those potential customers back to where you are. So finding what the right message is to make people, in the behavioral marketing world, it's called a trigger or a prompt that makes people take an action you want to do. And so all kinds of images go into that, your messaging, your content, tonality, all of which can change with who your target market is. What's the tonality? How many people my age are on social media? So, you have to go about it different ways, or on social media as much, So it's all about using your very valuable marketing dollars to ensure that you're building awareness and inducing that trial through changing behaviors of your existing customers or your potential future customers to try your product. We get all the time, hey, we want you to build our brand. We want you to build our brand. We want you to build our brand. Well, unless you have Nike money, which is literally billions of dollars to get it out there, even Nike's having some troubles the last couple of years because their products weren't delivering on the expectation of what the consumer said. So it doesn't matter how much marketing you do. It's not going to fix that until your product or service meets the expectation.
Let's talk about Nike because they surprised me because I'm down by 15% on those guys. So that surprised me. I thought they were going to keep going. I was like, so I'm holding on to it. I think it's a buy and hold as far as that's concerned. But what's going on with them? Like, in your opinion, from a marketing standpoint?
Well, first of all, Michael, take the Warren Buffett standpoint. Buy more now, because as it goes, listen, it's really hard if you look, and I don't know the exact figure, so I apologize. But if you look at the numbers from companies that are in the Dow or indexes and all of that in stocks, to stay in there over 20, 25, 30-year periods, it's very hard to do, because sustaining the growth, sustaining the momentum, et cetera, is very hard. I'm not on the inside on Nike. Nike used to be a client of ours for many years, as a matter of fact. They lose their way. You just kind of, sometimes you get too comfortable with what you were doing and just assume that the customers are going to stay with you. You assume that the customers are loyal. They're not going to try somebody else. But look at that industry. How many people are beating at their door every day? Look at OnCloud. OnCloud's come out of nowhere if you really think about it. And look at the market inroads they make. And I was having a conversation with somebody just today. Your next biggest competitor is probably starting in a garage someplace today. And you got to think like that every day. Every day as a marketing agency, I think there is a competitor that could take a client away from me out of working out of their garage today, because that's how we got started.
Right. So let's go back to your story now. So what does the trajectory look for, like, for you guys? How'd you grow? Take us to the kind of the pantheons of your career with that.
I don't know if everybody can see my fingers, but the typical entrepreneur, up, down, sideways, circle, hit the bounce off the ground, all the way to the ceiling, back down. So over 26 years, I've experienced every single one of those. And sure, I will again. I can tell you we're only in business 26 years because of the people we built around us. Getting the right people most of the time, not all of the time, on the bus. Helping grow them, bring in people, find people that are smarter than you, to take a company to the next level. And you spoke of books earlier. I'm a big fan of the book Grit by Angela Duckworth. If you haven't read it, it's all about grit in the entrepreneurial world. It's just, you're going to get the crap kicked out of you today, and hopefully tomorrow is better, but you don't give up.
Right, right. So where are you at today? What's happening with you today?
A great question. I'll be transparent with everybody. We had 3 amazing years, some of our best growth we've had in 26 years. And 2024 was tough on us. We lost some ground for a variety of reasons. One is we got a bit complacent, to be honest with you, and our organic growth was doing amazing, and we kind of lost sight of, business is a funnel. You got to keep more coming in the top than going out the bottom. I know what business you're in. You know how that goes.
Right. Same thing. I think a lot of businesses, because we had amazing 3 years right after COVID. Like, COVID was great for us, and like in the 3 years after that, yeah, you too. And then 2024, I was like, what? Okay, all right, it's me. I don't blame anybody else. I blame me. Right. Yeah. Typical entrepreneur. Right. So then, we're still navigating out of, at the 2025 and going through. So what you do, I'll tell you what we do. Product, listen to the customers. That's why I go back to the customers. What are the pain points they're having? How can I alleviate those pain points? What can we do a little differently? Because we don't want to keep on doing the same thing, with the pain points being our guiding star. And then also you got to, that goes down to the website, to the products, to, thinking out of the box, kind of doing left field kind of things, some things that make no rhyme or reason. Just maybe about 10%, because I don't want to spend too much money on, throwing shit against the wall, and that's kind of like my strategy. And I've been TargePlus, .com has been around for 25 years, and Bolator, which is our backpack company, we just launched that, a few months ago. And that's, we're just getting brand awareness at this point. So yeah, I same boat, same, I think a lot of people are in that boat. And I think we all need to, what do you think we need to do? I want to hear your take.
Well, a couple things. There's a lot of factor playing into the political uncertainty, economic economic uncertainty right now is definitely playing into consumer confidence, and that's something we need to do. But, the phrase that I want to say kind of lived by, going to another book, and author Marshall Goldsmith, who is one of the premier business coaches in the world, his book, What Got You Here Won't Get You There, is what I think about every single day. And that goes to the people you have, how they're growing, how the marketplace is changing, how the consumers' needs, wants, desires are changing. And as CEOs, entrepreneurs, presidents, I'm not a big title guy. My book is called Leaders, Not a Title. But that's the question, or the phrase better, that I really focus on constantly. What got you here won't get you there. And how do I address that all the time? I also learned in a continuing education seminar, I don't even remember what it was, is that when I meet with my leadership team on a regular basis, I, of course, ask, are we on strategy, hitting the numbers and all of that? But the number one question I ask is, what's changed? What's changed since we put this plan together? What's changed since the last time we met? And how are we adapting, evolving, changing, pivoting, pick the word that you want, to address these changes? Or what changes do we see over the horizon? I would suspect in your business, I don't know if they're American made, your backpacks and all that. I looked at your product. Looks like awesome stuff, by the way.
We'll have to use you before the episode's over. Have to see what David Anderson says on how to promote and advertise and market.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's are you prepared for them? Our roles are to be looking out over the horizon and knowing that what got you to where you are today won't get you to where you want to be.
Right. Well, let's use a widget as a case study. Let's use the Bolo Pack by Bolator as a case study. How do you, because I'm an ex-filmmaker and actor. So we came out with a great commercial, like 2001 Space Odyssey, like the dawn of a new backpack, did the whole thing, and did it on the cheap, because I'm like, I'm going to shoot this myself. I just need the costume, and I got a 10-acre property on the river. We did the whole thing there, and it looks good. But, it's not, it's almost like, gee, if this was 2006 and like when Yeti started, I'd be kicking ass right now. But that ain't the case. So in this day and time, we've done influencer marketing, this and that. We're going to start trade shows in June or July, and use that as a focus group and market, see what the interest is there. What say you, David Anderson, on what you from an outsider looking in, say, Michael, this is your checklist. This is what I suggest.
Well, Michael, you put me on the spot here right now, and I'm the business guy here. And coincidentally enough, we purchased a PR agency about 18 months ago that specializes in the outdoor space. We represent like Lowy and Night Eyes, and they're all at a show in Denver right now, with some of our clients there. So listen, the outdoor space has done amazing over the last couple of years. There's been a lot of growth in it. COVID helped with that a lot because people, were limited to what they can do and get through there. I'm not the marketing experts around here, but for you, like any other brand, is getting, how is your product different? Why is it different? And in your industry, it's a lot of testimonials and influencers and talking about how it is different, because that's a community. People who do that spend a lot of time outdoors are a community. They look to each other. They look for the recommendations. Who are the people that are, and I didn't look at any of your social media, but I would say that is a big part of what it is right now. And again, getting people to experiment with trying your products, and then do whatever you can to get them to tell 2 friends about it, because they tell 2 friends and 2 friends and 2 friends from there. Right. You don't have to use big budgets. The video's great. It's great to put out there, great to educate. But at the end of the day, you need people buying the stuff and talking about how great it is.
That makes sense. Makes perfect sense. So now, what's the plan? What's your long-term play here? What do you have planned for the next 5 to 10? What's going on?
Well, honestly, Michael, I'm not super involved in the marketing agency, and we have a software company anymore. I've gotten to the point where I now have a great team, president of the organizations that run the day to day. So I act more in the chairman role. We're not that big so that's kind of a word. Whenever people ask me that, I'm like, really, chairman? But, I work in that role. I also do some executive team coaching. I work on building high performing teams. Any company in the world can have the best strategy they have, but if you don't have the right team in place, it's all for naught. And so many times you don't have a solid functioning leadership team, at least. And so, if you just work with the CEO could be the problem. So I really like working with that. I do some speaking on building high performing teams, sit on some boards of directors and stuff. I'm looking to do more of that. And as of this past weekend, as I just said, I got a wedding in my future that I guess my wife and I are going to have some role in the coming year.
That's exciting. That sounds like fun. Because you worked hard, you built a good living and a good situation. And then to see that, that sounds like bliss to me. So congratulations on that. Tell everybody how they can find out more about you.
So you could go to my website, my personal website, which is dwaleadership.com. DWA is David Wayne Anderson, leadership.com. Give you all kinds of information about me, some of the stuff that I do. You can click on the email link if you have any interested. I have a book, Leaders Not a Title, out. You can go to Amazon. You can, download that. And even if you have a quick question, I'm happy to help people out. My personal purpose actually is also the company is to help people and companies thrive. And so I've made just about every mistake you can make in the book. I've done a few things right. And if there's anything I can do to help any of your listeners, never hesitate to just shoot me an email. I'm happy to respond and do what I can.
That's perfect. Perfect. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing, and I appreciate it very much.
Thanks, Michael. Appreciate you having me on.
Thanks for joining us. Gear up for your next adventure and head over to bolotour.com to check out the amazing Bolo Pack and their other innovative outdoor gear. Catch you next time.